Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday on this special week of Best of shows. We've done about 800 shows now on Inspiration for Today, and they've all been a joy. But some, like any TV show, are better than the others. So this week, we're showing our best of this last season, and I love the show for today. We are celebrating Rick Warren's birthday. I like this for a couple of reasons. One, the great video that we put in. And then I love the surprise that it's actually a repeat of a show we did early on. I have a great surprise for Rick toward the end. And he was, as you'll see, very surprised to see what I had. Great show. I'm glad you tuned in. I want you to enjoy as we celebrate our pastor's birthday. God bless, and we'll see you again tomorrow with another great show. Today we come to someone that I think is like maybe the most important. It's Pastor Rick Warren. We are so blessed to be a part of the church where he is our pastor. I first heard of him in 1983, and church was 3 years old, but I was in Pennsylvania planting another church there. And I just thought, I used a lot of his principles in that church plant. He taught me through the Purpose-Driven Church book. Well, actually, it wasn't even printed yet. I heard some lectures that he did at Fuller Seminary, and that was the basis for our church plant. I never had the slightest idea that I would ever be on staff, so it's been such a blessing in my life. Let me give you the verse for the day. 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 17. The pastors who direct the affairs of the church well are worthy of double honor, especially those whose work is preaching and teaching. That is Pastor Rick, and he is worthy of double honor. Well, it happened to be on the occasion of his birthday. We made a video and sent it to him. I think you're going to laugh and enjoy it. He got a kick out of what we sent him. Watch this.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
For
He's a jolly
good fellow.
For he's a jolly good fellow.
For he's a jolly good fellow.
Nobody
can
deny.
Happy birthday.
I love that. Well, we're going to use the rest of the show to replay a part of an interview that I did with him on the early stages of this show back in 2018. So it's about 3 years old. Some of you might have seen it, but it was one of the few times in my life where I was able to really surprise Pastor Rick. Just enjoy this time, and we'll see you tomorrow. Watch this interview. This is a very special show because we have our pastor here, our senior pastor, Pastor Rick Warren. I'm so glad you're here.
All right. So today, inspiration for today is the Rick and Rick show.
It is.
All right,
It
the
is.
Rick and Rick show.
Rick, one of the things that I've noticed over the years
Yeah.
is that when you sign a book, you always reference this verse. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails.
Yeah.
Why do you do that?
Well, I think that verse contrasts the difference between our plans and God's purposes. And our plans, when we're planning, even the best plans, we all know this, we're often wrong.
Yes.
How many times have we made plans and it didn't happen the way we planned it? But God's plans, God's purposes always happen. And so the more I can switch from my plans to God's purposes, the more likely I'm going to have fewer mistakes, fewer roadblocks, fewer delays, dead ends, and things like that. So the verse really just means that God's purposes are going to last forever. And if I live what I call a purpose-driven life, then I'm going to be building my life on something that's not temporary.
Yes.
I'm going to build my life on something that lasts. By the way, I want to say something to the
You-
folks of Laguna Woods, because people don't know this. Saddleback Church started in Laguna Woods. When I moved here, Kay and I moved here in January 1, 1980.
That
Okay,
is
we were
crazy.
25 years old. I had a 4-month-old baby. Leisure World was fully developed. All these other cities weren't even here, but what is now, of course, Laguna Woods was here. And I remember pulling off at El Toro Road. We found a realtor, and I walked in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I said, I need a place to live. I said, I'm Rick Warren. I'm 25 years old. I've never started a church. I've never been a pastor. I have no members, no money, no building, and I need a place to live. One realtor, and his name was Don Dale, in the room. He says, well, let's see what we can do. Well, he took me to an apartment over actually in Leisure World. He got us the first month rent free and nothing down. And so we started the church in that apartment
That
with
is,
7 people. So Saddleback actually started in Laguna Woods.
isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
And now we find ourselves back in there.
Oh.
You were just there recently,
Yep.
which was awesome.
Yep.
But you know, when you wrote, I wanted, if we could switch a little bit
Sure.
to talk about, because you, by your own story, were from a small town in Northern
Yes, I
California.
was, yeah.
What was the town?
Well,
actually?
there's a little town called Redwood Valley, not
Red-
Redwood City. Redwood City's in the Silicon Valley. Redwood Valley's 2 hours north of San Francisco. It's up in the Redwoods.
Okay.
And it's actually famous for 2 things. One, it's the place where the Jim Jones cult got started. My next door neighbors actually died in Guyana. They moved. It was
Wow.
a couple, a family. The
Yeah.
kids that I grew up with died in that when they moved to town, they were the biggest thing in town. And the other thing is, I'm from there. and
Yeah.
it was a little town of 500 people. And so I kind of had a Huck Finn growing up.
But you
growing
never,
up in the
you
neighborhood.
never, so you would have never imagined that these books, because
Yeah.
when you wrote,
Oh,
well,
no.
first of all, Purpose Driven Church, Rick, is a book that so influenced my ministry from day one that I got into
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And then, of course, Purpose Driven Life
yeah.
came along, and
It's the best-selling book in American history. Yeah,
That
it's
is
It's
amazing.
the best-selling book, hardback, in American history. It has 2 Guinness records. The other one is it's the most translated book in the world, except for the Bible.
except for the Bible,
It's
yeah.
in 137 languages. So nobody could have ever figured that. I certainly didn't.
You remember, Rick, that in early, do you know what this is?
I'm looking here. You've got an original copy here, the
I
loose leaf
do.
copy.
I
Yeah.
do, because in 1980,
That's pretty rare. You could sell that on eBay. You know?
it's funny you say that. So back in the day, before it had been published,
Yeah, right.
you gave the staff
I gave
one
about,
of
not
these-
everybody stuff.
Oh.
I gave about 50 people that I hand selected. I gave a copy of Purpose Driven Life. I said, I would like for you to read through this.
You're making me feel good.
Well, you're one of the 50. And I said, I want you to read through it and tell me what changes you would make.
so
and-
this was the
yeah.
loose leaf,
Right.
I call it rough draft in
Yeah,
a way,
exactly. It was.
to
And,
purpose-driven
I
life.
was talking about eBay. The other day, a guy called me and said, Pastor Rick, I saw one of your books, Purpose Driven Life, signed on eBay for sale for $90. So I called my son Josh. I said, I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing.
When you gave us, you made a
Yeah.
joke at the time. You said,
Yeah.
I'm giving you this,
Yeah.
but I do not want to see it on eBay.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That was exactly your instruction.
Well, it's funny because
So-
the book is, of course, gone all around the world. We had a peace team from Saddleback a year or so ago, came back from Myanmar, which is Burma, okay? And they were at the top of the Himalayas, and they said 2 interesting things. One, up top of the hill, there was a little kid wearing nothing but a Saddleback T-shirt, a Saddleback kid's T-shirt. How it got to the top of the
Oh,
Himalayas,
my gosh.
I have no idea. But a little kid walking around with just a T-shirt on, almost like a dress. And he goes, that was one thing. He said, the other thing is, Rick, he said, your book is everywhere in Burma, in Myanmar. He said, it's photocopied and it's by Ricky Warren.
It's wonderful. This is the day that the Lord